Arcadian Vanguard presents the Wrestling News in your daily wrestling newscast for Friday, April 7th, 2023. Good morning, I'm Mike Sempervive. We begin today with Ring of Honor, which presented its weekly TV last night on Honor Club, featuring matches taped Wednesday night at the UBS Arena in Elmont, New York. In the main event, Athena defeated Miyu Yamashita to retain the ROH World Women's Championship, marking her 8th successful defense of the title. Also triumphant on the show was new ROH Pure Champion Katsuyori Shibata, who made his first defense of the title with a victory over Christopher Daniels. Shibata captured the Pure title from Wheeler Yuta last Friday night at Supercard of Honor. In other results, the Workhorsemen and Shane Taylor beat the Lucha Brothers and Mark Briscoe, Brian Cage defeated Ortiz, Jay Lethal pinned Darius Martin, and Tony Nese went over Konosuke Takeshita. In ratings news, last Wednesday's episode of AEW Dynamite on TBS drew an audience of 877,000 according to Showbuzz Daily. That total is up 5% from last week's audience of 833,000. In the key 18 to 49-year-old demographic, the show drew a rating of .30, which translates to 391,000 according to WrestleNomics. That's up from last week's .28 key demographic rating. Despite the increased audience and key demo rating, the show ranked number 6 for the evening on cable TV in the key demo, down from number 4 for last week's episode. In injury news, Shane McMahon is recovering from the quadriceps injury he sustained on Night 2 of WrestleMania 39 last Sunday. McMahon was brought to Andrews Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Center in Birmingham, Alabama for surgery earlier this week, according to a PW Insider report. McMahon was already back home as of yesterday, according to the report, where he will continue the recovery process. The injury occurred as a result of a leapfrog during a surprise match with The Miz at SoFi Stadium. It is not known if there were any further plans for McMahon to appear in WWE beyond that appearance. In other WWE news, the Auschwitz Memorial Museum called out WWE earlier this week for using what appeared to be footage from the Nazi concentration camp at Auschwitz during its WrestleMania kickoff show last weekend. The footage in question was used during a package promoting the Rey Mysterio-Dominic Mysterio match, in which various pieces of prison footage were shown in connection with the prison time served by Dominic's character in storyline. Representatives of the Auschwitz Museum wrote on the museum's Twitter account, quote, "The fact that an Auschwitz image was used to promote a WWE match is hard to call an editing mistake. Exploiting the site that became a symbol of enormous human tragedy is shameless and insults the memory of all victims of Auschwitz," end quote. WWE had not responded on the matter as of this recording. Roku yesterday announced the new WWE documentary series executive produced by John Cena, scheduled to air on the Roku channel. Tentatively titled WWE Recruits, the reality show will reportedly chronicle the efforts of a group of young men and women competing for an opportunity to wrestle for WWE. A release date for the show was not made known, but filming for the series was already going on in Los Angeles over WrestleMania weekend. Said Cena, quote, "Millions around the world watch and dream of it, but only a handful of extraordinary individuals can become a WWE superstar. I am excited to bring WWE Recruits to the Roku channel and look forward to giving viewers an exclusive all-access perspective on how the WWE turns the dreams of talented young people into a reality," end quote. In addition to Cena, announced as appearing in the series are Paul Levesque, Shawn Michaels, Big E, Ric Flair, and Bianca Belair. And in Impact Wrestling news, Josh Alexander officially relinquished the Impact World title belt on last night's episode of Impact Wrestling on Access TV, taped March 26 in Windsor, Ontario, Canada.
4 years ago, you slapped a contract on my chest and signed me to Impact Wrestling. 4 years ago, I stood in this ring, in this building, in front of these very fans, as a signed Impact talent for the very first time. And since that day, I have never looked back. I have busted my ass. I have taken risks. I have burned the candle at both ends, outside and inside this ring, all for one purpose: to pay people like you back, to pay back Impact Wrestling for giving me the opportunity that I needed.
Alexander gave up the belt during the final segment of the show, which was the contract signing between Kushida and Steve Maclin for their match to determine the new Impact World Champion on April 16th at Rebellion. Alexander had been the longest reigning TNA Impact World Champion in the history of the title, but was forced to give up the belt due to an injury. Also on the show, Speedball Mike Bailey and Jonathan Gresham went to a no contest in an X Division #1 contenders match due to outside interference from X Division champ Trey Miguel, and Eddie Edwards beat PCO. And before we leave you today, we'd like to remind you that however you consume your content, you can find the wrestling news 24 hours a day and 7 days a week across social media. On Twitter, follow us at Wrestling News AV. Our Facebook page is also Wrestling News AV. The Wrestling News can also be found on the Arcadian Vanguard YouTube page. And for those who utilize Amazon Echo devices, just tell Alexa to play the Wrestling News podcast. And remember to make sure you add podcast at the end. Once again, for daily updates, breaking news, and more, follow the Wrestling News across social media. And that's the news for today. If anything happens, we will be here to tell you about it. No clickbait, no paywall, just the Wrestling News. The Wrestling News is a division of Arcadian Vanguard, and the Wrestling Newscast is a production of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network.